Hey there, Twisters. Welcome, hockey fans, and welcome, Seattle Kraken fans. My name is Nick, and today I'm going to be doing a mock draft for the NHL expansion draft that's about to happen here. I'm excited to welcome the Kraken. This last year, I moved into Kraken territory, and so I'm excited to be covering them on this channel and also on the hockeywriters.com. So make sure if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, hit the notifications bell, and follow me on Twitter. That way you know when I'm putting out articles on the NHL's 32nd franchise. So what I did was I went on Cap Friendly to their mock draft simulator, if you will, and I made some picks. It is certainly by no means pretty, but I wanted to have some fun with this. I've never done this before. I want to know your projections down in the comments below. So I did a V1 initially. You'll see my predictions in real time. And then I went back and I made some tweaks and I came up with a roster that personally I like. I don't know if it falls entirely in line with what Seattle would be allowed to do, but nonetheless, I think it's something that could potentially work. So of course, this is entirely for fun. I am by no means an expert as a general manager or anything like that, but I'm intrigued to see what you guys think of this one here. So let's look at my V1 draft and then I'll tell you how I ended up tweaking things later on. Okay, so I've loaded up Cap Friendly here. I've already thought about the first team or two, so I will start with the Anaheim Ducks, and I'll go with Alexander Volkov, just based on productivity, good shot blocker, young player, and very affordable too. So I liked what I had with him there. Arizona Coyotes, so there are two names that come across to me here. Ilya Lyubushkin had a good season for them. Right defenseman, you don't have too many to select from, I wouldn't think. And on the other side of things, you have Michael Bunting, who really came on strongly in the second half. He's a little bit younger than Lyubushkin, so I'm going to keep an eye out to see if I can draft other right defensemen. But considering how Bunting progressed through the course of the season, I'll select him from the Coyotes. Okay, Boston. So, whoa. This is something. They're giving you quite a lot to select from here. You could literally select Taylor Hall and offer him a contract. Andre Kasha, Nick Ritchie, he actually had a pretty good season for them. Clifton Lauzon, and I think McAvoy played with Jay Leach, the assistant coach for Seattle. So I'll start with Connor Clifton right now. Yeah, there's not a whole lot that I'm in love with here. Riley Sheahan's kind of a nice veteran signing potentially. Drake Caggiula, I like him. Good bottom six forward, probably fourth line forward, and he played for Hackstall, and he's at a really good value right now. I think he's just been on a couple of bad teams, so I actually might go for him, to be honest. So Derek Ryan, hey, he's from the Northwest. I like Josh Levo a little bit as well. Of course, you have Mark Giordano available as well. He's going to command a pretty steep salary, and he's getting up there a little bit. I think there are a couple other team captains we might be able to select from. I kind of like Levo. I'm of course going to be pretty stingy here, to be honest. I'll go with Levo to start out though. Maybe come back or something. Carolina. This one's going to be fun here. So you got Nino Niederreiter, kind of a steep cap hit, but a guy who can produce 55 points in an 82 game season. Martinook is not bad either. Geeky is also a good pick. I think this guy could develop into maybe a good third line center in the NHL, but I've already actually figured out who I would select if I were Ron Francis, and that would be the guy that I drafted, and that's Jake Bean on defense. He's supposed to have quite a high ceiling. He's only played in 44 NHL games, so I got Bean there for sure. Okay, Chicago. Brett Connolly, kind of a reclamation project at this point. I've always liked Vinny Hinostroza, but he's been quiet the last couple of years. Gaudette, I forgot he was even on their team. Brandon Peary is a guy that I used to really like quite a bit. Zadorov at 3.2, he's an RFA. Okay. Of course, he hits anything that moves out there. I kind of like him. Let's see. I don't really have much in the way of defense right now, so I'll select Zadorov to start out. Jonas Donskoy, a bit of a steep cap hit for the next couple of years, but a pretty good middle six player, I suppose. JT straight out of Confer, I like him quite a bit. Belmar, I love too, but he's getting a little bit up there, and he's a UFA. Although he played really well with Vegas in their inaugural run, so who knows? He might actually take a pay cut. I kind of like Belmar, to be honest. Confer's not bad, but that's... I guess he can play second line center or second line wing. I kind of almost want to target Landeskog here, but I'll go for Belmar. I think he's our fourth line center. Okay, Columbus. A lot of people are saying draft Max Domi. Scott Harrington's not a bad option though on the defense, because I think he's been a part of the team, during their time as a very good defensive club. This last season kind of being an exception. I'll take Harrington. He's a pretty good. That's not a bad cap hit there. Dallas, Cogliano, Blake Como, so some good veterans there. Ooh, Sami Vatanen or Jamie Alexiak. Oh, dude, I'm taking Jamie Alexiak. Detroit, let's take a gander here. So Jonathan Bernier could be your split starter. Cap hits. Oh, well, he's a UFA now, I suppose. Here's a team I don't really follow all that much. Stetcher's not a bad option, to be honest. I don't mind Stetcher at 1.7 mil. I'll take him. Oh, wow. I already have 6 defensemen? Wow, I didn't know that. Okay. Maybe I need to go back then and, for Chicago, go with Hinostroza or Gaudette. Yeah, for the meantime, I'll take Gaudette. Edmonton. James Neal. Chason. Turris. Jujar Kara's on the list. He's an RFA, but I like his tenacity out there. Dominic Cahoon. Wow, that's actually... That could pan out into something. Stalock's not a bad option for a third goaltender, though. You know what I'm going to do? Because we have 3 goaltenders, I'm going to choose Stalock because I think he's one of the best values. And maybe I'd come back for Cahoon. I don't know. I'll try Stalock to start. And we already know that they're going to get Drieger, so I guess I'll select him too. So actually, you know what? I'll grab, I'll consider getting Stalock here from Edmonton later on, but I'll pick Cahoon in the meantime. LA Kings, Brendan Lemieux, Andreas Athanasiou. That's actually not a bad deal for a guy who could, he's listed at center, who can play like a second line wing. Lazat actually had a pretty nice season for them, I think. I would consider that as well. I don't know. I'll take Athanasiou. I wrote an article about him for the Hockey Writers. Why not? Minnesota. Okay. A lot of people are saying take Kaapo Kähkönen. I'm taking Kaapo Kähkönen. Yeah, that's a good pick. Although I like Carson Soucy. Victor Rask had a really good season, but that's kind of a steep cap hit. Bukestad, not a bad deal for him either. But I will stick with Kähkönen right now. Montreal. So Price has waived his deal. I'm not going to go out and spend that much. Not yet. Wow, Weber's up there, but of course we know his situation. Eric Gustafsson, a guy who put up 55 or 60 points a couple years ago. Dude, I'm offering a contract for Philip Danault. That's one of the better deals, or one of the better investments you can make in the offseason. So I'm taking Danault. Okay, Matt Duchene and the Nashville Predators. Granlund, he came down from his last deal, so you could make him a decent offer, to be honest. I like Grimaldi, though. Another guy who played for Hackstall, so I might actually target him. Howlow's another guy, 1.75. He came down from his deal quite a bit. As your third line center, he would be a fantastic option. Not to mention, he won 56.5% of his faceoffs. I know because I was looking at him as a possible free agent for my team to target, and that's the Sharks. So I'll tender an offer to Howla. Everybody needs a Finn on their team anyway, right? Actually, I could grab Will Butcher. A little steep, but he does have some offensive upside. Nick Merkley's a good option. I remember, and Janssen's not bad either. He just maybe wasn't a fit for the Devils that year. They're kind of a different team. Nick Merkley, I like. I wrote an article about the Devils and who could be exposed. And Nathan Bastian's a good defensive forward, a good young defensive forward. So I would side with either Bastian or Merkley. I'll pick up Merkley right now, and then we'll revisit things a little bit later on. New York, this one's fun. So again, you have another guy who played for Hackstall. All these guys that I talk about played for him at North Dakota. So you have Zajac, who played with him. I love Cizikas, one of my favorite kind of lesser-known forwards in the NHL. Josh Bailey's, even at $5 million, Josh Bailey's a pretty good player for your top six. I think we're a little bit depleted at that, so I'll actually take Josh Bailey. New York Rangers, well, they're going to negotiate a deal with Goodrow supposedly, but I guess I could still pick him up for the time being if he's exposed, right? But for what he's commanding, I love you, Barkley. I don't love you that much. I'm not sure exactly who to get out of this group. Potato's a fine deal, I guess. I do need some more defense, so I guess I'll grab Potato. Ottawa. Ooh, Dadonov, man. Dadonov, I should say. I loved him in Florida. Chris Tierney's not a bad option at third line center, but I've already got Howla. I don't know, man. I kind of like Dadonov in my top six. And look at my cap. $28.3 million, and I'm 2/3 of the way through. Man, I gotta take some gambles here. Yeah, I'm gonna take Doughty. All right, Philadelphia, Voracek, Van Riemsdyk. For 2 years, that's actually not bad. Or just get Robert Haig. That's kind of the safe pick at this point. We'll just go with him for right now. Pittsburgh's got a few good players to choose from. I like Marcus Pettersson. The term on that's a little long, but not terrible. DeSmith is one of the goaltenders as well. I know he hasn't played particularly well over there, but for kind of a third goaltender, he wouldn't be bad. Evan Rodriguez is only at 700. Yeah, I'm picking him. Ah, yes, my team, the Sharks. In this case, I know that Gambrell's from the area, but I personally think Matt Nieto is the best player available here. Nieto is just really good at his position in his role, so I'm drafting him. St. Louis. Ooh, Mike Hoffman, man. That's kind of tempting, to be honest. Vince Dunn's actually not a bad deal either. And you're like, why aren't you taking Tarasenko? Because he gets injured and whatnot. Jaden Schwartz isn't bad either. But I need defense right now. So I'll grab Dunn. Tampa. Oh, this is too much fun. I like Yanni Gourde. Not for that cap hit per se, though. And I had to draft a player from this team earlier as well. So I got Palat. That will help get me to the cap floor. Maple Leafs, Kerfoot, second line center, yes please. Or I can get Freddie Anderson as one of my goaltenders. I do need another goaltender. Freddie Anderson, why not? So it'll be him, Drieger, and one of the backups, Kakinen. Oof. Do I even need Freddie Anderson at this point then? I might not. Screw that noise, man. I'm grabbing Kerfoot. Vancouver. Matthew Highmore is actually a good name out there. He kind of burst onto the scene with the Blackhawks, so I might consider him. Let's see. I might go for Matthew Highmore. He's not bad, but I think I'm pretty depleted when it comes to center. I guess that's what I'll stick with right now. Here I could grab Justin Schultz. I need some offense from the backside. He is injury prone, but last year he was okay. I think he only missed like 10 games. I put up a bunch of points. Brendan Dillon's not a bad pick either, where my bias would clearly show here. But I do need another goaltender too. Vanacek's not a bad option per se. Although I could get Brossoit from Winnipeg. I'll pick up Vanacek here. And then from the Winnipeg Jets, I'll grab, there's a Jets YouTuber, I forget his name, but he was telling me that like statistically, DeMello is one of the better shutdown defensemen out there. His term isn't great at that cap hit, but in his prime, he's not bad either. So here I am, Rocky like a hurricane. So we'll have to look at my roster. I think that where I've really screwed the pooch here is that I don't have much in the way of centers. Dano, Howla, Belmar, Gaudette, that's possible. You can roll with that. It's not great. I think I could get a better center. So I like Josh Bailey here. Hell yeah. I got Yevgeny Dadonov as well. Could have gotten Van Riemsdyk. But I might need to draft another defenseman. Anyway, I'll come back to this later on and I'll let you guys know what my final roster is. Okay, everybody. Well, that was my V1. So I ended up making quite a few changes based on that. I wanted to make sure that I had enough players under contract for this upcoming season to actually fall in line there. I wanted to select a couple more defensemen. I decided maybe if I select a total of 11 defensemen instead of 9, and then take 2 fewer forwards, then maybe that would give me a better roster overall. So I went with that. Also looked into my center depth a little bit because I had quite a few wingers. And so now I'm going to show you guys what I ended up coming up with. So I'm looking at my roster here, and I'll flash this up on the screen. Okay, so I ended up choosing Ilya Lyubushkin from the Coyotes instead of Michael Bunting. Either way, I think I would be happy. But Lyubushkin, adding another defenseman to the roster, and it's funny because we'll see how that affects my depth chart there. So I swapped him out. Then I added Max Domi from the Columbus Blue Jackets because he only has one more year left at $5.3 million. And so I figured, why not take a shot with him? I did that for a couple of players, but I thought that for Columbus's situation, that was kind of my best outcome. Then what I did was I swapped out Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, who I like quite a bit too, for JT Compher, who's 10 years younger, and he's in the prime of his career at that. And of course, he's under contract until 2023, $3.5 million cap hit. Guy could slide into the top 6 if needed, into the second line. So straight out of Compher, we got him. Then I ended up fulfilling kind of what I was hoping for and getting a couple of better defensemen when it comes to offense. So when I think of the Kraken, I think of Jay Leach. He coached the AHL Providence Bruins for a few seasons, and two of those seasons, they were second in the AHL in goals against average. So he's very good at defensive structures. So I thought, why not add a couple of guys with some offense? So from the New Jersey Devils, I ended up with Will Butcher, who is under contract next year. So that kind of fulfills that there. Not to say that that Nick Merkley or Nathan Bastian would be a bad selection either. Devils have a good core of forwards. But nonetheless, I think Butcher was my best bet there. From the Ottawa Senators, I gave up on Yevgeny Dodonov. I like him quite a bit, but I wanted, again, a little bit more center depth. So I went with former San Jose Shark, Chris Tierney. He has 1 year left at $3.5 million, and he can slide into probably third-line center if need be. Pittsburgh, I actually pulled away from Evan Rodriguez, and I tweaked my goaltending a little bit. So what I ended up doing was I didn't select Vitek Vanacek. I ended up with Casey DeSmith because he has 1 year left on his deal at $1.25 million. I don't necessarily expect him to be locked into the backup role, though, considering I have Kakinen and Drieger, but I like how DeSmith and Kakinen can battle for that spot. And overall, you'd probably get a 1A, 1B situation. So that's what I did with Pittsburgh. For the Toronto Maple Leafs, I went back into the statistics because I didn't really do that the first time. I like Kerfoot quite a bit, but McCann, people seem to really be high on him and think that he's the one who should have been protected over Kerfoot. So I decided to select him. And even though he's listed at winger on Cap Friendly, he does play center. So that's why I have him here. And as for Domi, I didn't mention this earlier, but he can also play wing, so I don't have to lock him into center. And then lastly, Justin Schultz to give me some more offense. Of course, he does have a history of injuries, but last year, he still put up some really impressive numbers. $4 million for 1 year. I'll take that, and then we can look at my defensive depth as well. Okay, so now let's look at my depth chart. I'm not an expert when compiling these, but this gives you a sense as to just the overall talent on this Kraken team. So top line for forwards, Philip Danault gets a nice contract, that's for sure, with Andre Palat and Josh Bailey. That's a pretty sweet first line, I think. Second line, Mr. Faceoffs, Eric Howla with Max Domi, so they could, interchange if need be. And I do like Andreas Athanasiou. A fresh start would be nice for him. Guy just has incredible breakaway speed. Third line, this is a pretty sick third line. Jared McCann at center, JT Compher on one wing, Dominic Cahoon bounced around a couple of teams, but this guy I think is pretty legit as a third line player. And then my bottom line, it's almost like a San Jose Shark line here. Chris Tierney at center with Matt Nieto, great defensive forward, and Matthew Highmore, who kind of broke out in last year's playoffs, the 2020 playoffs. And then I have a couple of other forwards. We have Alexander Volkov from the Ducks, Adam Gaudette from the Blackhawks, and of course Drake Caggiula, who played for Hackstall at North Dakota, and Byron Feroze. I don't really know much about him, but I ended up taking him because basically that would fulfill my contractual obligations, and it was just $1 million. So that's why he's on my roster. And then let's look at my defense. This actually, I think this looks pretty savage, frankly. So Top pairing, Justin Schultz, Vince Dunn. Of course, Dunn's going to need a contract extension. Then second pairing, Dylan DeMello, speaking of former Sharks, and Will Butcher. So again, a good stay-at-home defenseman and somebody with some offensive upside in Butcher. Bottom pairing, Connor Clifton, Jamie Oleksiak. I can dig on that. I can dig on that quite a bit. And of course, if somebody went down for injury, a guy like Oleksiak or even Clifton could slide into the top 4. And then look at this, like Jake Bean. He was 13th overall in 2016. He's actually a scratch here. So he could actually be an asset to deal away. You could say that about him or Lyubushkin. And of course, we have some other veterans down there as well with Stetcher, Haig, and Boteto. And then my goaltenders, as I mentioned before, I've got Chris Drieger, sort of the 1A, I would think. And then the 1B would be a competition between Kaapo Kähkönen and, of course, Casey DeSmith. So that's what my roster looks like. And as you might have been tracking, so 10 of those guys are going to need contracts. However, I do have $20 million in cap to play with. And the thing is that when I draft those players like Dano, his 3 point whatever million dollars goes against the cap for that. So in other words, it's almost like you would subtract another 3 million from how much cap I had spent, and then you would add on whatever I ended up signing him to. I think we could definitely make this work for the cap. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we could definitely consider dealing away some of those assets, whether that's an Ilya Lyubushkin or perhaps even taking somebody from the forward lines. You could take a Matthew Highmore and deal him away for some picks or something like that. So I don't know. Assuming that I'm following the rules here, I think I actually did a pretty good job. But of course, that's just me. I'm not a general manager. I'm just a dude with long hair, a Sharks tattoo, because that's my team, covering the Seattle Kraken. So I want to know your projections down in the comments below. Hopefully we can talk more Kraken soon, even during the off season. I can't wait until their jerseys go on sale on September 15th. So I'm definitely planning to hop on that. I'm going to the preseason game in Spokane. So of course, let me know down in the comments below if you're going to be at that. Would love to potentially organize a meetup there, and we'll have some fun following this team through the offseason because they're going to make more moves after this. That's how Vegas really, really made their bread when they came into the NHL. You think of guys like Riley Smith. That was something that was, in addition to the expansion draft, and Shea Theodore as well, too. So Seattle's got Ron Francis. He's got plenty of tricks up his sleeve after this expansion draft, and I hope that you guys are going to have a good time watching that, and of course the NHL entry draft just a couple days later. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure if you haven't already, hit the red subscribe button. You had a good time with us, leave a big thumbs up because that helps other twisters like you discover this channel. And I'll see you Kraken fans a little bit later on. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, I'm Nick, and I'll catch you twisters later. Ciao.